Hey everyone, I'm Instructor Brooks, and this is our first video in our series on teaching fallacies. If you haven't watched my series on learning illusions, check that out, link up here. But in today's video, I'm going to talk to you about the information transmission fallacy. And I tell you what, I've been waiting a long time to talk about this. So if you're ready to learn something, let's go. All right, guys. So, like I said, this is our first episode in our series on common teaching fallacies. I'm really excited to talk. I've waited a long time to talk about this one, actually. Just so you know, Megan makes all of these presentations. She's so fantastic. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be able to get this stuff done. And she has been a huge help in finding this information. Honestly, I'm just talking from experience, what I see. So I just want to give a shout out to Megan. You're awesome. Thank you so much. But I've been begging to talk about this one, and she's held me strong. She sticks to the schedule. So finally, Brooks gets to let loose on the information transmission fallacy. I'm pumped. So what is the information transmission fallacy? Well, this is the idea that students simply learn by being told information. It doesn't even matter which class. It could be your traditional, classroom where you're studying your lecture, or it could be in lab. But just being told, you just transmit that information, that all of a sudden, students should know the information. And we all know that's false. We already know, oh, yep, he's right. So, what is the most employed tool for information transmission? Well, if you've watched my series on learning illusions and have paid much attention to me at all, you'll know that lecturing is the most used form of teaching. And I'm someone who used to use it a lot and thought that I was really good at it. And even if I was, whatever, because what you're about to find out is that if lecturing is just talking, transmitting information, and I just told you that that's a fallacy in itself, that's not a true statement, then I was good at doing the thing that wasn't good. So what's the big deal? We all have used this, and we'll talk about why, but seriously, we should think about it. We are lecturing, and I'm telling you, the facts already tell you, this is not the way to do it. According to one study, 70% of teaching activities in which instructors engage students consist of lecture. So we're spending 70% of the time doing the worst thing we could do. Again, if you've watched other videos that I've made, we've had this pyramid, and this here, the lecture top 5% is what students remember. So think about that. If you say at the end of your class, the end of the term or the semester, students only remember 5% of what you taught them. That's terrible, especially when you see there's a bunch of other options besides lecture that are way more fun. But continue on. So why do we fall into this fallacy? And totally again, I thought I was good at something that I found out was the worst thing for me to really do. Well, for one, lecturing is a part of a long tradition. I remember there were certain teachers that would just talk, and I was gravitated towards, and that's who I wanted to mimic when I became a teacher. And that's what they did. And this isn't saying either that lecture is horrible, but as a teaching mode for a class, not good. But there were certain teachers that I really engaged with like that. They were, and it wasn't basic lecture either. It was exciting. It was more storytelling. It wasn't like an outline form on the board. It was like an actual just being human conversation. But still, there was a lot of lecture in my growing up, in my teaching, and when I'd been taught. So, and if you're a new person into PTA instruction, you may have never taught before, been around any educational theory. So, what have you seen? And what do you get told by the teachers there how to teach? They say lecture, because that's what they do. And we just keep passing it down. And one of the ones that does not probably get, the first two seem, okay, yeah, whatever. Press for time. And this is going to come up a lot, this time component. Now, I know we can't do anything specifically about time, but that's where I come in later. So the literature on lecture says this. Let's just drive this point home. We got to drive it home. Conventional lectures are effective only to a limited extent. Me as an example, right? Like, yeah, there were some I connected with, but probably not every day, right? I remember a couple lectures of things we talked about. They do not promote critical thinking. So the evidence says it does not promote critical thinking. If you're a program director or instructor listening to this video or watching this right now, I guarantee in your top 3, maybe even number 1 of complaints that you wish if you could magically make a button for students and then be better at would be critical thinking. And the evidence says lecture is terrible for critical thinking. Why are we doing it at all if that's one of our biggest complaints? Or maybe that's why it is our biggest complaint, because we're not doing the thing that promotes critical thinking. Maybe that's it. So continuing on here, student attendance tends to be low, and so is cognitive engagement. We already talked, you see them. They're sitting there. They're like zombies, okay? Cognitive engagement. Yeah, they're not on. It's not running. They're asleep. Furthermore, the idea that lectures should and can cover all essential subject matter is false. You are not going to cover all the essential stuff anyway. So why is it so popular? Well, it's been around, obviously, for a while, but it does. So think about the time and the amount of material, and then look here. Number 1, presents large amounts of information. It doesn't present it all, but it sure presents a lot, right? You can get so much information out there. Also, lectures can be very straightforward. It's very simple. I mean, you can make an outline out of it. That's how straightforward the lecture can be. It's not complex in any capacity. And lecture allows the instructor maximum control of the learning experience. So if you're an instructor that doesn't like to be questioned, maybe this is a reason you like lecture. There are instructors like that. And I get it. Sometimes it is annoying to be all the questions. So if you want to stop that, you just start lecturing. It becomes pretty easy. You put them to sleep, you're in control of the information. And that's how you are in charge of the questions that are asked, not the students so much. So those are 3 big reasons why it's popular. But this hinders student success, of course. So this leads to teacher-centered classroom resulting in passive learning. And I'm going to have more videos about this, my red versus blue classroom. I'm really excited. But long story short, teacher-centered classrooms, which are heavily lecture-based, result in passive learning, which, go figure, even with the way it sounds, doesn't sound like the most effective type of learning, and it's not. Passive learning equals poor engagement and retention. Those are the facts. All right, so here's my call to action to you. What can you do? Because you've just said, or I've just said, hey, what you do the most of, what you even call some of your classes, is the worst way to teach. Now what do? There are a couple things. Nothing changes overnight. I have been continually working on a process to make myself less of a lecturer and be as active as possible. Okay? And this has taken years to work on this. So what I would recommend is just embrace the role of being the guide or coach, is what I like to call it really, on the side, not the sage on the stage. Okay? In fact, the students the other day, we're talking about, we make a bunch of jokes about different things. We're like, oh, do we call you Master Brooks? I'm like, no, only Game Master, but not Master Brooks. I was like, but honestly, I'm just like your coach, man. I'm just, I'm helping you out. I'm showing you the plays, but you got to run them, you got to do the thing. And I really, as I've embraced that more, I've really, really enjoyed that. So I highly recommend that, and utilize more active learning strategies, focusing on retrieval versus recognition. And there's a big difference between those two. One is much harder, but greatly improves retention. Go figure. And do you know which one it is? So those are my 2 recommendations for you. Now, the next thing is, if you're like, well, I don't want to wait 3 years because that sounds like a long time, a lot of work. You got any shortcuts? Well, you daggone right I do. If you are an instructor or a program director, and you want to talk to me about how to change your classroom and talk about the different types of classroom and create student-centered classrooms and have lesson plans and have activities and worksheets that are active and promote better retention with multiple different types of strategies, then you got to become a member of the Instructor versus Campus on YouTube. So good. This is my page. So just type in Instructor Brooks in YouTube. Boom, takes you right there. Hit the join button. You get on Discord, which is my website community thing. We'll start talking and we can transform your classroom like I've been doing to mine. And if you're a student and you've made it this far, congratulations. Why wouldn't you want to know what teachers are talking about? Because that's going to help you out. You're a smart kid. Good job. And if you want access to all the stuff for students as well, click the join button. Become a member of the Instructor Brooks campus on YouTube. And I'll catch you in the next video.